What's up, Night Owls? Today we're having a look at the Honor Among Thieves prequel novel, Druid's Call. I got the book on the Kindle, so pretend the book is here. For those of you that don't know, there are a series of books that go over the backstories of the characters in the movie Honor Among Thieves. And I only just found out about these books recently because, believe me, I would have read them first before I went and saw the movie. Speaking of which, this video contains no spoilers for the Honor Among Thieves movie, but I will be referencing the trailer for the movie. Overall, I enjoyed the book. It was very short. It was just under 300 pages, and it took me about 4 to 5 hours to read. And I can tell you, if you saw the movie and you enjoyed it and maybe you want more out of it, this book is definitely worth your time, especially if you liked the Druid Doric, who is the central focus of the book. She's even on the cover. The book goes into detail about her motives, her history, why she is the way she is, and it gives great detail on why her wild shape is unique. Which, if you recall, when the movie trailer came out, there was a lot of talk about how the Druid in the trailer is able to wild shape into an owlbear, even though it's a monstrosity and not an animal. And if you've seen the movie, you know there are some other aspects to her wild shape that are unique and may raise some eyebrows. The book covers all of that, and it's very well done. As a matter of fact, that's my favorite part of the book, is learning about what makes her and her wild shape so special. Also, Doric is a tiefling, and the book puts a lot of emphasis on the prejudice she faces for being physically different from everyone else. And of course, the superstitions that drive people away from her. It will make you sad and it will make you angry. Also, the book gets really dark sometimes, not just with how she's treated, but how she treats herself. The main character struggles a lot with some internal conflict, and I would even go so far as to say that the primary antagonist of the entire story is internal. But I'm not going to elaborate further on that, at least not in this video. I will be releasing a video that details Doric's storyline for the people that don't want to read the book. Okay, now let's talk about what I didn't like about the book. My biggest complaint is the book wasn't very fantastical in nature, even though it's a fantasy novel. The author very clearly wanted there to be an emphasis on the characters and the dialogue, which is fine. I appreciate that. It's just the setting kind of came off as very dull when compared to the rest of the Forgotten Realms setting. For example, there are very few characters in this book that aren't human or elf. You are introduced to a halfling, a dragonborn, and an air genasi about halfway through the book, and that would be great, except that nothing that's interesting about those races is ever brought up. And it didn't take long for me to forget which of those races was associated with which name. They were effectively human for the purposes of the story. At one point, I even thought about going back in the story and checking who was who just because I lost track of it, but I figured eventually something would come up to distinguish one of them. That never happened. And the most egregious example of this is the Wood Elves, which are featured very prominently in the story. The elves in this book have nothing elf-like about them. They're effectively humans with long ears that are good at hunting. And they need to sleep. At first, I thought the author was just referring to their trance-like meditative state as sleep, just to make things easier. Like, sure, maybe the elves will refer to their own trance as sleep when communicating with others, or maybe the author just wanted the reader to understand that it's kind of like sleep. That's fine. I'm okay with that. You can call it whatever you want. But at one point in the story, an elf looks at the main character, yawns, and says, "Whew, I'm tired. I'm going to go to bed." Now listen, I am not one to complain about a dungeon master or an author changing things in their story to make it more interesting. I encourage it, in fact. And I really don't want to just assume that the author didn't know elves didn't need to sleep in D&D. It's not something that could be easily overlooked, even with a little bit of research. I don't know anything about the author or their background, but they either did this without knowing that D&D elves don't need to sleep, which kind of comes off as lazy, like you didn't do any research about the things that you're writing about, or they did it intentionally, which is an interesting design decision. Like it feels like it's dumbing down the fantastical nature of the creatures in an already not so fantastical story. Or it could just be that I misunderstand how elves work. That's always a possibility. I'm not always right. As a matter of fact, while I was reading through it, I was like, is there something about wood elves that they don't need to sleep? Like, I immediately opened up the book and I was like, surely I'm missing something. I read trance. And then I just kind of like, okay, I guess the author just changed this. The Wood Elves do live in a network of tree houses within the treetops in the forest. And that's kind of the fantastical nature stuff that I was talking about. Like, I want to see more of that stuff, more of what makes these creatures unique. More to the point, there's not a lot of fantastical races. There's also not a lot of fantastical monsters. And it's not like I was expecting dragons to be flying overhead at every scene or a beholder waiting in a cave, but I would have liked to have seen something more than some animals and an owlbear. I was really hoping to see an awakened animal of some kind, or several, but the book has no awakened animals. I hope nobody thinks of that as a spoiler, but I was really hoping to see some awakened animals in this like druid enclave. They never came. That may come off as nitpicky, and I apologize for that, but I couldn't imagine writing a story about druids or a druid enclave and not having an awakened animal in there somewhere. Moving on from that, the spell uses were great. We spend a lot of time at the Druid Enclave learning how to be a druid, and there's like some cool airbending stuff going on and a lot of druidic spells being flung around. Really good. I liked that aspect. And overall, the previous complaints were really minor, just nitpicky stuff that I would have liked to have seen changed. The book was great in general. I just would have liked a little bit more fantastical stuff, but I still recommend it, especially if you enjoyed the D&D movie. It's hard to recommend this book for someone who hasn't seen the movie yet, because if you don't enjoy the movie, then this book will just compound the issue. It will just be even more waste of time. But at the same time, I think it would have been really cool to have read this book first before I saw the movie. And I'm currently reading through the other prequel novel, which is called The Road to Neverwinter, and it details the Bard and the Barbarian's backstory. So be on the lookout for that review soon. And again, I'm also going to release a video that details Doric's backstory for the people that don't want to read the book. I'm basically just going to cover everything that the book covers and talk about why she is the way she is. I think that would provide a lot of value for people who have seen the movie but don't want to read the book. Maybe even people that haven't seen the movie but are on the fence about it. I'm unsure whether I want to have movie spoilers in that video, so let me know in the comments. And with that, thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, you know how YouTube works. Hit those buttons, leave a comment down below. Let me know if you think that my coverage of Doric's backstory should include movie spoilers or not. If it doesn't have movie spoilers, then I can just kind of focus on the book. But I would love to talk about things that happened in the movie that are referenced in the book, or rather that the book kind of ties into. I think that would be really good. There's a couple of scenes in the movie that are like, that if you know what's going on would be great having seen the movie. And if you want to be a part of this D&D community, make sure you join the Discord. Link is in the description. Come by, ask questions, let me know what you think. And as always, I'll see you at sundown.